Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz saxophonist James Brandon Lewis on the new live album and this COVID-19 jazz world. We caught up with him in early January 2021 to talk about this and so much more. Enjoy.
Yeah, it's great to catch back up with you. It was much tamer, more innocent times the last time we spoke.
Oh yeah, definitely.
we have all aged like presidents this year, I'm sure.
Yes, we have, for sure, without a doubt.
The one thing, first and foremost, thanks for taking a minute. It's great to catch back up with you. And
definitely.
Part of me believes that 2020 is going to be a very special time for musicians that release albums, but there's also an added part of that where having a live album, because there's been such an absence of live music, has to be a special thing, and you released one of those this year. Talk to me a little bit about a pandemic release, why you decided to do it, why it was live.
Well, I actually recorded both of the albums that are currently out live at Willa Style and Molecular before the pandemic. Live at Willa Style, I mean, the significance of that festival predates before I was even born. One of the albums that really linked Chad Taylor and I was Red and Black, Julie Redman and Ed Blackwell. And to get the opportunity to play the festival prior to the pandemic, we decided, well, why not record? And it just came out great. It's a really amazing festival, amazing vibe. I mean, so many amazing people have performed there. Other duos, Rashid Ali, Arthur Rames, so on and so forth. So I think Max Roach and Artie Shep. So, it was an opportunity to really dive deep into further duo experiences with Chad and myself, and the release of the albums during the pandemic was definitely not planned. I didn't even know this was going to happen prior to, as I was recording the album. It's interesting that it is released during this time period, but I think that the upside of it, because, it's definitely, I think we're all at the height of things to complain about. I for sure have my fair share. But at least during this time period, you can take a moment to reassess things. It also gives people an opportunity to check out music that maybe wouldn't be on their radar if we were all still as busy with our lives as before the COVID. A lot of things get overlooked, and I think this is a time period to kind of be still, reflect, grow, learn, plan as best you can for the future. So it's an enjoyable experience, enjoyable album, and I'm glad people are listening to it.
This year has been relatively quiet on the live front, but I know that a lot of people have still been working on projects. So my question to you is, we look back on 2020, and in early to mid-March, when was your last gig? When did you realize the domino was falling? And how did you kind of scramble to creatively satiate yourself to keep going?
Prior to the COVID, I just think that artists in general, throughout history, you have to have a certain amount of tenacity that no matter the circumstance, you figure out a way to push through. And so my last gig was in March. It was March 4th, I believe, at Town Hall with William Parker, large ensemble, sharing a bill with the Sun Ra Orchestra. And then since then, there was a bit of a scramble. I think I've had about 3 or 4 tours canceled overseas. And of course, gigs here weren't happening. I just, initially, I was kind of taken back, as many people are and have been and still working things out. But I also acquired some new skills. I also refocused and continued to make work. And at first, I didn't want to create anything to mark this time period. And the albums coming out, I don't look at them as markers because they had already been recorded prior to this pandemic. I've acquired a fair amount of new skills, different apps. I'm teaching online, which is cool. I actually like it because I wasn't teaching live in person. I mean, I've done master classes and lectures at different universities, but picking up students privately has been very much rewarding in the sense that, to have something to look forward to creatively, and it's a healthy exchange. So that's how I've been sustaining myself, along with receiving aid from arts organizations. Has helped out tremendously as well. I can't personally live in the muck and mire every day. I have to be creative. I have to think about things in the most positive light, even though it may appear not. I've definitely lost relatives to the COVID. I mean, there's enough to, like I said earlier, there's enough to complain about. But I just chose to begin to, rather than mope, to become active. Activity is healthy. Burning energy is healthy. And so that's the net of it. And trying to be encouraging to my friends and my family and vice versa, receiving positive words of encouragement and different things. And, we'll prevail. I mean, as we have through various trying situations that I can remember being on the planet.
What do you see? I keep terming it as revival when we all start getting back to seeing shows and you get on stage. How do you see that materializing as we move forward? I know there was a big triumphant shut from humanity that we're in a new year, but as we do move forward and things advance, how do you kind of see the jazz world coming back to life and reviving themselves?
It's like with anything. It's like a kid waiting for Christmas. It's going to happen, and when it does, everyone will be excited. And there'll be an even greater appreciation and a more curiosity on the part of the listeners to want to know, the development of artists. Like what currently they're working on, what were they working on. There's growth on many fronts. A lot of more musicians are more in tune with apps and mics and how to record. So I know quite a few number of people that have used this time to really learn different aspects of music related to audio engineering and even in dealing with social media and getting the word out about what you're doing and online concerts. And there's definitely already some positive things coming out of this terrible situation. And so I think that from a personal standpoint, I don't take music for granted. Like I never have. So every moment that I've ever played, I never looked at it as like it was a given. My first tour, I still approach every overseas opportunity as if it was my last, as if I was playing in the United States. And so, like, I don't take music for granted. So I think for me personally, I'll just continue to live and breathe and push forward. But for others, and I can't speak for their experience, but I definitely feel like there'll be some general excitement. There'll definitely be some appreciation, and also supporting the art. In general, I think people have realized that arts means something, and that we need it. And so you have seen an influx of people donating to arts organizations, because loved ones, friends, family have loved ones and friends who are musicians, and they're hearing their situation, and so I think we'll see both on the music front and from different individuals investing in art. So I think that's what, but it will continue. I was reflecting on, I've been reading Dexter Gordon biography, Sophisticated Giant, and in the book they're describing the recording ban that happened, and of course the pandemic can't compare to a recording ban, but in an economical sense, in those times, musicians were relying on sessions and radio and publishing and different things economically to provide for their families. So when that wasn't happening, they had to devise other ways of making income, similar to what we're dealing with now, in the sense of devising other ways. There's not a recording band, but there's a live band going on. So I think that there's definitely going to be a resurgence, but creatives, and musicians and artists and dancers and poets, this is no different than, of course, I don't think about it as necessarily a job. It's a passion, it's a calling, and of course, economically, it provides, as best it can, a living. But musicians will continue to do things just as any other profession. We'll make a way and we'll figure it out. And so I think we already have been figuring it out. So there'll definitely be a great resurgence, and people waiting to hear music live again. Just like a kid waiting for Christmas.
Yeah, I like that. That visual. I got to tell you, on a personal note, the last thing I did before the world shut down on March 12th, 2020, I saw a speech, a discussion given by Maxine Gordon on Sophisticated Giant at the local Johnson County Community College here in Kansas City.
Oh, that's amazing.
and I had to catch up with her. I called her because I have the signed copy. When she signed it, I remember walking out thinking, how am I going to remember this? It is the most important it's the most important autograph I've got in my entire life. It's dated. She signed it, and I caught up with her to make sure that everything was cool and then got her end of the story. And she said that after I sent that picture to her of it from to my desk, she said that from here on out, she will only sign autographs with the date on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
it's a really amazing. I'm enjoying the read.
Oh man, yeah.
It's definitely a reminder of when I was in undergrad. I had it. I'm always listening to the elders, but I kind of went crazy on Dexter Gordon as a young 19-year-old person at Howard University, and I'm 37 now, and so I hadn't revisited those albums in a while. Live at the Village Vanguard, Our Man in Paris, Go. I've been listening to those albums again while reading the book, and of course, after my Dexter Gordon period, years later, as I was in in graduate school at California Institute of Arts, I was checking out Wardell Gray, and then that brought me back to Dexter again, and it was like a combination of Wardell Gray and Dewey Redman. I often have these combinations of various sound painters, and so, but yeah, no, it's great. And I've also been reading a lot during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's definitely been a period of reflection, and there's been some good things that have come out of it, and I think we're all just hopeful to get back to those things that make us live. And I think, I've noticed too, a lot of musicians have left us, and I think part of it is just being heartbroken. I think part of it, when you're a performer and you can't do it, I think there's been a part of that hasn't been the vitality that really just adds humanity. So I think that's going to be huge,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that we've lost a lot of musicians. I mean, not that I'm not in the business of keeping track of death, but I just don't recall a time period where we've lost this many. Yeah, I definitely look forward to us getting back on the good foot.
Absolutely. And I look forward to profiling the album and the interview on Neon Jazz. Great to catch up with you. Hopefully we can talk again in better times, and we can talk about how your itinerary is totally overloaded. So
sure.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to James Brandon Lewis for his time, class, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.